AI has completely changed how I'm going to build Demi. Let's talk about it. Very next thing we need to do is spam customer calls. Demi in 8 weeks has taken shape of 3 different products. We are living through one of the greatest boom eras and changes in technology that building that well is going to need more than just me. Well, as you can see, we're at $49, which is pretty terrible. I wouldn't be surprised if I redid this video in 6 months and said something completely different. We are now back home in London, full-time. We're actually staying with Lucy's parents for a few months. I have the desk in front of me. In fact, I'll just show you right now what it looks like. So this is it. This is the humble abode that we will be building Demi and scaling it to 1 million in ARR, and I'll be documenting the wins and the losses every step of the way. All right, so before we get into how AI has completely changed how we build and use products, I wanted to give you an update on where Demi is at. You'll see in the titles of these videos, every video is an episode, and we are on the journey to 1 million in ARR. So where are we at? Well, as you can see, we're at $49, which is pretty terrible. And I'll walk you through how we got there and why we're there. So if you've been following, you'll know that Demi in 8 weeks has taken shape of 3 different products. First, we started building the agent native Slack. Then we pivoted into automating documents for sales reps. And then we pivoted that into automating emails for sales reps. Now, in that time, we've got $49. This is actually monthly recurring revenue. So I don't know, times 12, $600 in ARR, but pretty shy of $1 million, right? So why have we pivoted many times? So when I quit my role in March, the ambition was actually to build the agent native Slack, right? That was the idea that I quit for. However, quickly realized that building that well is going to need more than just me. It's going to need a team of engineers and marketers and growth people to really get that off the ground. It needs a lot of investment from VC, covered that in a previous video. And I didn't want to take that journey just yet, especially with the move. I knew I was relocating back to the UK. It just wasn't the right time. So we pivoted into automating documents for sales reps, much more narrow, much sharper wedge, and something I can build myself. Now we tested that, and to be honest, it just wasn't a big enough problem to solve. And then we pivoted into emails for sales reps, specifically follow-up emails after a product demo. So that product has been built just before I left for traveling. It was a little bit buggy, but it did work. And we have got a couple of customers for that product who are using it. So now I'm back full-time. I'll be continuing to iterate on that product and really use this time to test if this is the wedge that we want to anchor towards, right? But the topic of today's video is how AI is dramatically impacting how we use and how we build product. So what do I mean by that? So let's look at the trends in software. So right now, for me, it's really clear to see that there's certain types of products that we used to use that are declining and new types of products that are massively increasing in uptake. So human interfaces, this is any app, web app that you may use on your laptop that you have to physically click around to use. So I'll actually use this example throughout the video, but let's think about Canva, right? Canva is a product that we would typically log into, drag on some pictures onto a canvas, and then export, and we can do whatever we want with that asset that we've created. Those types of interfaces are massively decreasing in uptake because they're being replaced by agents. And there's a few different verticals that are absolutely skyrocketing because of the introduction of agents. Number one is the infrastructure that agents run on. So things like Vercel, they have absolutely exploded in this era because everything needs that to run. Another good example would be the labs themselves and the models. So you think of Claude and Anthropic's models, got OpenAI's models and all the other labs. Those models are being used as the harness for pretty much every agentic product on the market today. And that's why we're seeing these crazy record growths in revenue. The other extreme growth curve is automated agents. So these are agents that run automatically without the human having to do anything. So a good example would be maybe you get a new sign up for your company. An agent could enrich the data for that customer with their email, mobile number, and then action any follow-up emails that it needs to send. So maybe an introductory email to the customer, a win-back email, and it can also then book in calls with that person if they respond and have a full conversation. And that would all happen without a human being involved at all. And then the other one is what I would call sort of your traditional products, digital products that are now accessible through Claude, ChatGPT, or even Slack in some cases. So if I go back to that Canva example, the way they have evolved with the AI era is they're no longer just a platform that you log into to create assets. You can actually create assets directly from Claude or ChatGPT using their plugins, because Canva have built a plugin to integrate with those tools. So those are the verticals that are experiencing extreme growth and where as a builder, you probably want to index to going forward. Let's get back to the road to 1 million in ARR. So we have a few options here, right? We can build infra that agents need, so like a Vercel. I've already given that a red X because for those types of products, you need deep technical expertise that simply I do not have. We then have building an automated agentic product, like an artisan, a sales agent. I think it's a big green tick. It's something I have deep experience in doing at Relevance. The difference was at Relevance, it was a horizontal platform. So therefore I didn't have that deep sales rep expertise, and I think that's still a gap today. We can also use a product that can be used by Claude or ChatGPT or Slack, like Canva is doing today. I think this is useful, but I don't think this is the core distribution for your product. It has to be a product that adds standalone value if a human did use it, and it's simply more accessible through Claude, through GPT. And then a wild card, you can actually just help companies do all of those things, which is a really interesting take. And typically we would call this consultancy, but there are a ton of traditional SaaS companies out there who know that they need to evolve in the AI era, but they do not have the expertise in the room to do it. Now, again, with myself and my partner with deep expertise in building agentic software, this could be a really cool use case for us personally, A, to start generating revenue and work towards that 1 million in ARR, but also B, learn deeply what these customer problems are and the customer problems that they're willing to pay for to solve, therefore justifying the commitment that we need to make to build an agentic product that can scale. So where do we go from here? For me, I'm keeping it extremely simple. The very next thing we need to do is spam customer calls. I'm not talking 1 or 2 per day. I'm talking 5 or 6 per day to deeply understand the pain point. And even 6 weeks ago, I was saying, look, we can build software so quickly now, let's just build it and test. And whilst largely that is absolutely true, and you can validate and highly validate a problem space if you build the thing that you're talking about and give it to customers. That is the best thing you can do to test validation in terms of confidence. And it is rapidly quicker than it was even a year ago. However, the challenge with that is that you keep having to make these shifts in positioning, whether I'm posting on LinkedIn, and also you are putting all of your mental energy thinking of what that product vision looks like, building it and then testing it. I think we need to go back to basics a little bit and really deeply understand the customer space that we're operating in. And if we are continuing with the email tool that we're building, do we know every single email type? Do we know how those emails are sent, the frequency? What are the configuration options that these sales reps need in terms of, do they need complete control over tone of voice? Do they need control over length? All of that sort of stuff. How can we deeply understand that and continue iterating the product, or even pivot into what we think the new problem space should be? That's the focus of Demi right now, but I wanted to demonstrate and just think out loud around how the shift in AI, or the shift that AI has caused, is impacting the builders like myself. 5 years ago, we never had to think about this. It was SaaS, it needs to be cloud-based, humans need to be able to click around it, or it's an API that you can call, right? That conversation has pretty much died. The conversation is now, how can we build a product that agents need for infra, agents, or it's an agentic product itself, or it's a product that we can make accessible through agentic platforms like the labs, Anthropic, OpenAI. It's a super dynamic space. I wouldn't be surprised if I redid this video in 6 months and said something completely different, but we are living through one of the greatest boom eras and changes in technology that we have ever seen. and this is capturing the changes every step of the way. That's today's video. Stick around. We're doing one video a week where I'm documenting the journey, the highs and the lows of being a startup founder. You can already see that there are highs and lows in the 7 or 8 videos that we've done, but keeping myself accountable, being honest and truthful to what we wanted this channel to be. Hopefully you find it useful. Feel free to drop comments in the video. I always get back to folks who drop a comment. For now, peace out.